Hey everyone, so excited today to have with me on the Success Habits of Superachievers podcast, Roger Love. Roger is such an amazing, accomplished person. I'm proud to say I met him in 2017, thanks to our mutual friend, Seth Mosley, three-time Grammy winner, I should say, Seth Mosley. But Roger coaches some of the biggest names in the world. He coaches some of the biggest singers, John Mayer, Gwen Stefani, Selena Gomez, also Joe Elliott of Leppard, and we'll tell that story in the interview. He's also worked with actors who sing in different movies like Bradley Cooper, Joaquin Phoenix, Reese Witherspoon. And he also works with some of the biggest speakers in the world, Tony Robbins, Simon Sinek, and Brenda Bouchard. And so welcome, Roger. So glad to have you today.
It is my honor to be with you, Kyle.
Yeah, we met in 2017. I got to come to your studios in Hollywood. It's a beautiful setup, and you had Grammys on the wall, and it's just impressive. You've gotten to work with some amazing people over the years.
Yes, you know, they say a teacher learns so much from his teachers, but learns really what he needs to learn from all of the students. And I started this whole trek of being a voice coach when I was literally 16 and a half. My voice teacher left the country suddenly, not mysteriously, but suddenly by choice. And he said, take over the studio. Why don't you? So I said, okay, why don't I? And my first day at 16 and a half years old, being a voice teacher, I was the voice coach for Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, and then Earth, Wind, and Fire, the group came in Chicago, and all of these super groups. He had Stevie Wonder and Barbara Streisand, and suddenly all of his students were my students. And I literally faked it for 6 months, trying to add value to what these superstars already knew about singing. And 6 months later, when he came back, almost every single one of his celebrities wanted to stay with me because, surprisingly, we had all found that I had this ability to listen to the way that people at that time sing, even if they were incredible, and come up with something that would make it better, healthier. They could sing longer. And then I taught singers for 17 years. He brought me in as a junior partner, and I continued going to school and college and everything. But in every free waking moment I was teaching, 17 years later, speakers started coming to me like Tony Robbins and Susie Orman and John Gray and Tyra Banks that were just literally speaking to tons of people. Tony Robbins, as I mentioned. And I turned them all down. I said, you're tall, seem like a nice person, but I'm a singing coach. And then I would send them away. And then they kept coming back to me saying, we didn't solve our problems. And we still heard that you were the voice guy. Please work with us. And as they came back to me, I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. That opened up the door that really changed my life, because at that moment, I studied the speaking voice and influence and presentation skills. And I tried to understand how singing was different than speaking. And then I created all of this content so that I could teach these amazing speakers. And now my practice is literally 50% singers and 50% speakers and influencers and leaders of corporations and amazing mothers and fathers and young people who want to succeed. So I've loved this journey that I've been on. And now it's just about voice. It's not about singing voice or speaking voice. It's about voice. And what can you do to open up your mouth and have the sounds that you make actually create the success that you want in the life path that you choose?
Wow. And I know we're going to do a deep dive today about the voice, and it doesn't matter if you're a speaker or a singer, it applies to everyone. Yep. And I can't wait to do a deep dive, but you mentioned some impressive people. I mean, some of the best singers in the world, Stevie Wonder, Phillip Bailey of Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, I'm sitting there going, how powerful. And then Brian Wilson, one of the most brilliant producers, songwriters. And so again, there's a common theme among all the guests I've had on, and it's called serendipity. It's we find these, like, how did I find Jim Rohn? I mean, the story's crazy. It was never intentional. I didn't know who he was. So when you look back at that, now again, you had to be smart enough and do all the right things to walk through that door.
Yeah.
But you have to look back and go, how incredible was that?
Yes, I do. And literally, I hadn't been trained how to be a teacher at that point. I was trained how to be a student. I was just trying to be a good student. But I loved singing. And I realized early on that singing made me happy. So I knew I wanted to spend the whole rest of my life working with voices. I just thought it was singing. So it was a little door that opened, and it was a fantastic opportunity. And I just, thank goodness that I made myself ready to accept that opportunity when it happened.
So when you hear someone that's a singer, like a big time, well, let's say it's new talent.
Right.
And you're hearing someone saying, hey, Roger, what do you think? You've worked with some of the biggest people. Can you tell within 30 seconds if they have the gift to really be big? And I would also ask, if you hear a song, I don't know if you write songs, but you've been part of so many big hits in your life.
Yeah.
So within 30 seconds, do you know pretty much?
The answer is, I'll answer it in two ways. Within 30 seconds, I believe I certainly know whether or not it's an incredible song with amazing melody and lyrics, because in 30 seconds, you hear the intro, you hear the first verse, and you pretty much have heard the chorus, because songs are only 3 minutes. So in 30 seconds, you got pretty much what that whole song is about. And I will just say that I've worked with some of the greatest songwriters, and that those collaborations made me really respect incredible melodies and really respect incredible lyrics. I spent 3 years working with Bernie Taupin, and who's one of the greatest lyricists of all time, and 3 years working with Robbie Robertson, who's one of the greatest lyricists of all time, aside from all the other great songwriters, lyricists. I mean, John Mayer's a fantastic songwriter. But so I would say that my entry level to learn about, and I'm a studied musician myself and a songwriter. Anyways, the answer is, I believe I can certainly tell a great song when I hear it. And as far as a voice, you have to understand that, because people come to me all the time, they're like, here, listen to me, tell me whether or not I can be a successful superstar singer or speaker. And I say that the instrument, the sounds you make, that's just one component. Because look at all the most famous voices in history, singers and speakers. It isn't always that they had the greatest voices. Everyone wasn't Stevie Wonder. Everyone wasn't Phillip Bailey from Earth, Wind and Fire. Everyone wasn't Barbra Streisand. And yet, these singers and speakers, famous actors, they rise to the head of the pack because there's other elements in it. The good thing about the voice is that every single voice on the planet is different. Every single one. Anyone who's listening right now or ever listens to this podcast, if I call them the day after, I somehow get their cell phone and I say, hi, how you doing? They're like, Roger, did Kyle give you my cell phone number? And how did Kyle get it? Because everyone sounds different. Your best friend doesn't have to call you up and say, hi, Kyle, it's me, Roger, your best friend. I'm like, hi, Kyle. And you're like, Roger, hi. So everyone is different. So the voice is an instrument which we learn how to play. We learn how to perfect it. But then everything else we do, Barbra Streisand would have never ended up being Barbra Streisand unless she loved singing and was singing all the time. Stevie Wonder would have never been Stevie Wonder unless he loved music and started playing all the instruments. So it's about nature, what Mother Nature gives you, and it's about nurture, what you learn, what you practice, what you overcome that makes success.
Wow. And I'm going to be really disciplined and not go down the Bernie Taupin, John Mayer, all the amazing songwriters you've worked with, because that's very interesting to me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to, for now, we'll come back to that. But for now, for our audience sake, I am going to ask you about the voice and how we each impact people, for good or bad, based on how we communicate. And you don't have to be a speaker or singer to maximize the opportunities by using the voice. And I've heard you talk about this before, and it applies to 100% of the population that wants to have influence, whether it's in their relationships, their jobs, their business, whatever it may be. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I learned early on that voice was the most powerful communication tool that we possess. And yet most people are trapped. I literally believe trapped behind instruments that don't even begin to showcase how special they are. The sounds come out of their mouth, and people are judging them based on those sounds. Speaking voice now we're talking. Because people do make value judgments as soon as they hear you. They decide whether they like you, whether they think you're intelligent, how old you are, whether you have any offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, where you went to school, how many kids you have, why you decided to wear both blue. They make these decisions about you. They're filling in their own story because they don't know you. So we live in a world that is word-based, thinking that if I had the right words to say to you, I could get that job. I could start that career. If I had the right words to say to you, I could start a relationship that would end in where I envision that the best part of our relationship could be. Word culture, except that science has proven that the words you say actually are not the most effective way of communicating with someone, because the brain processes first for emotion and then logic. So words are logical, but words by themselves don't have any emotion attached to them. So if I say to you, I love golf, I hate golf, I love my wife, I hate my wife, you don't know how I feel about golf or my wife, because the words themselves have no emotion. So we have to learn sounds and learn to speak from emotion to emotion. The best way? By realizing what sounds create what emotions. So I've spent my lifetime figuring out, what are the sounds of happy? What are the sounds of grateful? What are the sounds of sadness? What are the sounds of empathy? What are the sounds of power? What are the sounds of influence? Because it's so easy to understand how that works once you know how it all comes together. So I literally teach people how to go from word by word communication to emotion by emotion, which then when someone is listening to you, it immediately is emotional content, which goes to the part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, which processes it, remembers it, feels something about it, and then acts on it. So most of the conversations that people are having are like this. How are you? Great. I'm good. How's your wife? Fine. Still alive? I am. You too? Yes, you are. I see you breathing. It's all monotone. It has no melodies. It has no sounds of emotion in it. So I teach my speakers everything I teach all of those famous singers that I worked with and still work with, that there is a way to open up your mouth and move people emotionally. And that's the only way to achieve success, because that's the only way to do three things. This is really important. When you speak emotion to emotion using sounds and then attaching the right words, you control the way people perceive you. So you make the sounds, and that makes people believe who you are. So to be in control of how people perceive you, oh my gosh, that's incredible. Now you don't have to have any fear, because what's the biggest fear in America? Speaking in public. Why? Because you're afraid people are going to judge you harshly. They're not going to like you. Well, if you control the perceptions, what are you afraid of? Being liked too much? Being respected too much? People paying you too much money to listen to you? What are you afraid of? Everybody wants to marry you? Everybody wants to be in a relationship with you? So control perceptions of others. Second thing, when you learn to speak from emotion to emotion, sound-based, you control the outcome of every conversation you have, because it's emotion to emotion. It's different. Words to words don't lead any place, but emotions make people feel things, and then they act on it. So the third thing is you control the perception, you control the outcome of every communication, and it's you are then able to showcase the best of who you are. And most people could easily be good at it. I teach people to do it in 15 minutes, in an hour, in 2 hours. They sound like orators.
So powerful. And I suspect you're challenging people to exaggerate a little bit what they think. Like we all probably think we're being out there, and we're really not, right? So you have to get outside of yourself. And in today's social media world, I also suspect is you help people get outside of their comfort zone to communicate. That also probably helps them then get outside their comfort zone on communicating on social media and putting themselves out there, which we know is one of the most powerful platforms to reach unlimited amount of people. But also with the written word, right? As we tap into what you're talking about, passion, emotions, communication, then we can the two most powerful things are the written word and the spoken word, right? And they do go hand in hand, I bet.
Yeah. Well, just remember, I'm not a biblical scholar, but let's just go from the standpoint that pretty much all Bibles say, and God said, let there be light. Now, he could have just done it, but what was the power in him saying it? Saying it actually creates the energy. That's it. And is it outside of people's comfort zones or asking them to be different? No. What happens is we think that we are the voices that we were born with. We think that the voice we have now is the voice we were born with, and we were destined to have this voice. But that's not true. This is the instrument we were born with. But the sounds we make are actually dependent upon who we imitated. So if mom spoke really, really airy and you really liked getting fed, the second you could make sound, you're like, Mama, milk, hungry. You spoke like that because sound connected you. If your dad spoke like this, fishing, and you wanted to go fishing, then as soon as you could say the word fishing, you said, Daddy, fishing, or up. You spoke how you imitated the sounds you made. Flash forward, we're all adults. And now we are the combination of the sounds we imitated. And we think that's our voices. So that's the voice you put on your voicemail message, your voice greeting, and you're like, I don't like that, but I don't have any more time to fix it, and I can't seem to make it any better right now. And you blame it on the microphone and the phone, and you walk out, and that's the voice that you don't like when you hear yourself recorded. And I say to people, it's an instrument. You have to learn how to do it. So yes, when I show people the sounds they should make, they're like, whoa, that is totally different than the way that I sound. And I'm like, whoa, isn't that a good thing? Because you really didn't like the way you sounded, and your voice was only getting you to the level of success that you're achieving right now. What if I could tweak it and make it better? Yes, it's going to sound a little different to you, but if you pick up the guitar and you start playing it, but you don't know how to play the guitar, that's going to sound a certain way. And then when I show you how to play the guitar and it sounds differently, you're going to like how differently it sounds like, because all of a sudden, that's where you're supposed to put your fingers. That's what the guitar is supposed to sound like.
So what are some of the most common mistakes that people make when it comes to speaking? I know for me, I do struggle with sore throats, and I'm sure that could be related to a lot of things. But the more we talk, the more strained my voice seems to be. So what are common mistakes, and what are some of the things that you help people change?
Great. The first common mistake is that you're supposed to breathe in through your mouth, because your mouth is open when you're speaking. So you're talking, your mouth is open, seems like a good time to breathe in, and you breathe in through your mouth, and you do this, and this is one of the reasons you still get hoarse. Right. But we're not supposed to breathe in through our mouths. That's not what the mouth is for. The mouth is to get sound out. The mouth is to speak and sing out. The nose is to get air in. There are filters in the nose called turbinates. And when you breathe in through your nose, the air passes through those filters and becomes moist, so that when it goes to your throat, it doesn't dry out your vocal cords, so you can speak longer. So most people just need to close their mouths, breathe in, and then open their mouths and speak. So first thing,
let's stay on that one for a minute. So is that normal for most people to do it the correct way or the wrong way?
Everyone was born doing it the correct way. Look at a baby in a crib. Their mouth isn't open and they're breathing like that. They're breathing into their noses. It's called diaphragmatic breathing. We were all born that way. And then we watch people breathe like this.
When you meet someone that does it correctly, typically were they trained to do it correctly, or do some people just inherently do it correctly?
The bottom line is everyone was born that way. Most people watch other people badly do it. So they move from what was natural and honest to then watching everybody else breathe badly. And then I have to reteach them. So the truth is, when I meet somebody who's doing it, they've thought about it. Okay. They've consciously realized somebody taught them that they need to breathe in through their nose. So that's the first thing. Okay. And along with that, because we'll just stay on that one for one more second, when you're doing diaphragmatic breathing, you're supposed to not raise your chest and shoulders, because that doesn't help get any air in. Your lungs are not up here where your shoulders are. You're supposed to pretend that you have a balloon in your stomach, so that when you take a breath in, your stomach comes forward. And then when you speak, and this is the key, you're only supposed to speak while your stomach is coming in. You don't do that. That's also why you're getting a little hoarse, but you're brilliant at everything else. So this is just little tweaks.
All good.
It is personal because I care that much about you. So I want you to take a breath. Everyone take a breath, let their stomach come out forward as if they had a balloon, and then learn to only speak while their stomach was coming in. That is like having an accelerator pedal for the car. So when you want to go fast, you press the accelerator pedal, and that sends gasoline to the engine. Well, this does the same thing. When you let your stomach come in, when you speak, it pushes just the right amount of air to the vocal cords, and then that air exits your mouth, and you sound richer and more full. Okay, that's the first.
This, Roger, for those listening, if you want to see the visual, this is also on my YouTube channel. So you can just search Kyle Wilson, Roger Love, and you'll see Roger doing a demonstration.
Perfect. But it's really easy. They just put their hand where their belly button is, take a breath, and let their hand come forward. And when they speak, Roger only wants me to speak while my stomach is coming in. They just let their stomach come back in. Okay, that's one problem. Second problem is most people speak as if they were one or two notes on the piano. So they're like, they speak right around here, and they have kind of one note, and they stay on that one note. That's their one note. Hi, I'm Roger Love, and I love my one note, and I just talk there. Every so often, I might get really excited. I'll be like, whoa, that's amazing. And then I'll come back to that one note. This is called monotone. If I just speak in the same note all the time, then what happens is people think they know what note I'm going to say next because they've heard it so many times, and they get bored, they fall asleep. And then when they think they know what I'm going to sound like next, they think they know what I'm going to say next. And then they tune me out because I'm boring them to tears. And the average attention span for the human race is 8 seconds. So you hit the same note over and over for 8 seconds, and they're like, you are the most boring speaker ever. So they need to add more melody. There's 88 notes on a piano keyboard. A Bosendorfer piano has 90 because one German composer said, ugh, how could I be limited to only 88 if I want to write my next concerto? So 88 keys, and about 90% of every person on the planet only uses 1 or 2 or 3 maximum notes. So I teach people how to use melody. They have to have more notes, like a song. When they're excited, it's okay for them to go up a little higher. And when they're angry, it's okay for them to go a little lower. But they have to mix it up. If you listen to me now, you'll hear that I'm not staying on the same note. And when you move the melody around, sometimes going up, sometimes going down, sometimes staying on the same note, it engages people's attention to a much higher level, and it's much more emotional. Let me give you an example. We were taught when we were in elementary school to use descending scales. What does that mean? That means, well, we were told, when you get to a comma, Roger, go down. Here I am at a comma. And when I get to a period, go down. Here I am at a period. to go down with melody, and go down in volume. And I was told, though my teacher was very nice, she said, Roger, the only time you could ever go up, which is called an ascending melody, is when you get to a question. You like chocolate? That's the only time she said you could go up if it's a question, but don't ever think about having the melody go up any other time other than it's a question. And there's all these stupid articles that were written about up talk and valley talk, which has nothing to do with ascending melodies. I'll explain in a minute. When you use descending melodies, what we were taught to go down at commas and periods, going from highs to lows. Now I'm talking and then I get lower. It makes people sad. My name is Roger Love. I'm so happy. It's my birthday. I love being with Kyle. It's okay. Descending melodies make people sad. They're like really sad songs because they go down. And yet, what are we doing? We're doing that all the time at commas and periods, and we're making people sad. Why, as a speaker, do we want to make people sad? That's not our job. We should at the very least want to make them happy. Well, we can do that with melody. Ascending melodies, melodies that go up, make people happy. I love my wife. I love chocolate. I love being with Kyle. It's my birthday. None of that sounded like a question. The ascending melodies. We need to use more ascending melodies. Here's the difference between up talk, valley talk, and ascending melodies. Those cuckoo articles that were written, not by musicians. They were written by scholars and linguists, but they just missed the mark. When you use up talk or valley talk, you scoop. It's okay. You like chocolate? My name is Roger Love. It's my birthday. So that scoop is what is bad. Because when you scoop, like valley talk, that makes you sound like you don't know what you're talking about. Everything's a question. That's bad. But it's the scoop that's bad. If I just go from note to note, it's not bad. It is fantastic. So use more ascending melodies. It'll make you happy because, by the way, you're hearing yourself speak as well. It'll make everyone else happy. So more melody is my second tip. Breathe better through your nose. Add more melody, especially ascending scales. Also, my third tip is speak louder. We've become a world that is afraid to speak loud. Why? Because we've equated volume with anger. When I talk louder, I sound like I'm mad, and nobody wants to talk to a mad person. So we're so worried about sounding angry that we speak more soft and whispery, and we become these people. I'm here for you. I'm a therapist. I'm a massage expert. I'm a psychologist. It's not about me. It's about you. So we think that air somehow means care, but air sounds are weak sounds. When you make air sounds, as soon as they come out of your mouth, they dissipate in the air and they barely go anywhere. They certainly don't vibrate the bodies of the people that you're trying to talk to. So we need to have more volume. So volume itself isn't the enemy. Volume only sounds like angry when you have three components. Remember how I talked about, basically, I've spent my lifetime figuring out what are the sounds of emotions. I said that at the beginning. Well, the sounds of angry are more volume, monotone, because when you're angry, you don't have time for melody. You're just going from word to word. You're just ready to explode, and there's no melody in it. And faster pace. So to sound angry, you have to speak faster, have to stay on the same note, and you have to be louder. Volume by itself, when you add melody to it, or you don't rush through the words, never sounds angry. So you need more volume because speaking isn't just a sound thing. Speaking is a physical connection thing. When I speak to you, and if I create the right volume and I use the right melodies, the sound pours out of my mouth, literally invisible sound waves. This isn't mumbo jumbo. This is scientific. Sound waves come out of my mouth. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean they don't exist. And they're supposed to vibrate the bodies of the people you speak with. It's a connective vibration. You're supposed to physically connect with people, but most people aren't because they're talking to themselves like this, soft, with no melody. And then they're not physically connecting to anybody. They're thinking the mic will connect people to people, but it's the sound waves that are supposed to connect people to people.
I love that. And I think the intention to be more, present with the melody and how you express yourself also does create a little more passion, creates a little more connection. And again, speaking for myself, it's not as exaggerated. It doesn't come out as exaggerated as I hear it.
Yes.
Again, I think we have to go stretch the rubber band further than we feel comfortable for it to actually be making a difference.
But let me show you how easy that is. I totally agree with you. You're right. How easy is it? And why aren't we stretching the band more? The answer is we don't record ourselves enough. We don't know what we sound like. We think this is how we sound because we hear ourselves, but most people don't listen back enough to their recordings of what they sound like. So you have to remember that when we speak, the sound that we're hearing is mostly internal bone vibration. The sound that we create inside kind of vibrates our skull and other bones in our body. And we think we're so big and powerful because we feel all this internal vibration. But once the sound comes out, they don't feel any of that internal vibration. Their bones are not vibrating. So we don't sound like we think we sound because we only sound like we if we listen back to it. Sound coming away from us doesn't sound the same as sound coming towards us. So we need to take out our little smartphones that we have and we pay all this money for, and we keep upgrading, upgrade, and we need to take our cell phones and we need to record ourselves speaking. And we need to listen back specifically for the things that I'm talking about right now. Am I just all airy and that's why people just interrupt me all the time? Am I monotone? Is it just literally I only have one note and I stay on that one note too much and that's why people are bored and that they're always, nodding their head because their eyes are closing in pre-nap time? Am I too loud and do I sound angry because I don't have any melody? Am I using descending melodies, going down at commas and periods? Am I using and all the time? These crazy fillers, like I can't even watch reality TV anymore because every other word is like, and it fillers like and like and extended and so those have ruined the sound of the English language. So now you record yourself. How many fillers are you using? You don't need any of them because they're making you sound less intelligent. How many descending scales are you using? How many ascending scales are you using? Are you doing monotone? Are you doing airing? Are you breathing into your mouth? Because you can hear it. So now I'm going to talk about this, and I'm recording myself on my phone. You can hear.
I'll never forget, I was talking to Darren Hardy once, and he had so much excitement in his voice. And I knew how intentional he was being about that. And so I started doing, when I would have sales calls, I started imitating that a little bit. Hey, Roger, how's it going today? And Roger, my sales went up.
Of course they did.
We communicate passion. Now, again, it's outside my comfort zone, no doubt. But I thought if Darren thinks that's valuable, I guess I will imitate that. And I'm probably back to my old ways. And again, this is such a great reminder. And I have spent time with you. I mean, you are the master and you're not cheap one-on-one, but you put all this like in an online course. And we're going to talk about that at the end of the podcast, how people can have all kinds of access to, tons of hours of incredible training.
Absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit about the singing part now.
Okay.
So I got to tell this story. Phil Collen of Def Leppard, the lead guitar player that also writes many of the songs and does background vocals. I interviewed him for a recent podcast about 3 weeks ago. And he probably spent 10 minutes talking about Roger Love because we were talking about Def Leppard would go on tour and then wait 5 years, then go on tour and wait 5 years. And so I brought up when I was working with him in 2013, we thought that was going to happen. And then he and I were going to do some things together, but they never quit touring. And he said, that was actually not because Joe wasn't interested. It's because Joe couldn't Joe Elliott couldn't sing. He kept losing his voice. And Roger Love is the one that solved that. And he just went on and on about you. Literally, you're the reason the last 5 years they've done these mega tours with some of the biggest bands in the world. So talk a little bit about that. And I know you've worked with so many other singers, but like, what are some of the common things when you have someone that's having to sing 3 or 4 times a week in front of a big audience?
Yeah. I've been the voice coach for Def Leppard for probably 25 years. So back in the heyday when they were winning every award and they were headlining at the Forum, before the Staples Center was even here, and they would do multiple nights at the Forum, and back when they were selling back-to-back 25 million albums, Hysteria and Pyromania sold back-to-back 25 million albums. It had broken every record in the history of rock and roll. So I started with Def Leppard way back in the day and would tour with them, and it was great. And everyone sings in Def Leppard. So when I picked up Def Leppard as a client, I taught them all to sing. My favorite thing after we would do live concerts is that the next day in the paper, an article would come out and it would say, "How dare Def Leppard use pre-recorded background vocals and lead vocals?" And I'd say, "Awesome, you're welcome," because it sounded so good that people thought that they were pre-recorded. Everyone, not just Joe. Right. So then fast forward,
By the way, what a great group of guys.
Great guys.
The band has stayed together all those years. You and I both talked about how Phil Collins is one of the nicest human beings.
Oh, nicest, really an amazing person. Someone that I really
I've been with him for 25 years. That's incredible.
But over those years, life takes its toll, and that's not easy music to perform, by the way.
Right.
Joe is he's singing in the stratosphere, and it's that kind of rock and roll is really hard to sing. So what happened was I got him set up and they'd be able to go on tours, but then the years took their toll. So X number of years ago, he came back to me and they said they were done because he couldn't possibly sing those songs anymore. And he said, "Do you think you could fix it? You think you could fix it one more time?" And I said, "I think I could. It's going to take me a little while, may even take me a year, but I think I could fix it." And then we literally worked together probably 4 hours a week, 4 sessions a week for a year. And aside from that, even on the days that I would see him for an hour, he would practice for another hour himself. He was determined to take what I was going to teach and we were going to build his voice. In less than a year, his voice was better than it ever was. And then he started going on tour 2 years at a time and then booking the next tour, 2 years at a time, then booking the next tour. And so I'm so happy to have done that. One of the ways I do it is something as simple as I taught him how to breathe better and all that. But also I've created techniques that take all of the straining and all of the pressure out of the way that people speak and sing. Most people think that there are only 2 voices in the human voice, male and female, 2 voices. There's chest voice down low. Ah, here I am. And I could just take my chest voice and cram it up here as high as it goes, squeeze my buttocks cheeks together, maybe hit some high notes, make my 2 eyebrows become one and strain. And that's chest voice. And then there's another voice, which we think about as more classical, called head voice. La, 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 up here. Ah. So people are aware that there are those 2 voices, right? But then when people try to go back and forth between chest voice and head voice, there's a problem. They usually can't navigate their way in between. That's why people break. They sing like this, and they try to sing, "The land of the free," and their voice cracks like they're going through puberty, but they're 30 years old, and that puberty was a long time prior. It's because it's hard to go from low to high. There's like an area where the voice doesn't know what to do. So I literally created content and understanding of that there's another voice called middle voice, which lives in between chest voice. And that middle voice is like a bridge that ties it all together. So instead of trying to sing or speak and go, ah, and be grandfather on the bottom and grandmother on the top, I realized I could teach people how to do this. When I realized that, I started teaching all my students middle voice. That's what it's called. And that takes away all pressure, all strain. So then my singers could suddenly go super high like Steve Perry or like Joe Elliott could in the prime. And there wasn't any pressure and wasn't any straining. It's those singers that we look at today, like the Bruno Mars and the Celine Dion's, and that can just go all the way up and down, and they don't strain. And the Jennifer Hudsons of the world, because they're using chest, middle, and head. And you're like, Roger, how does that help me with speaking voice? I'm like, because all three of those voices have sounds that are also tied to emotions and perceptions. So chest voice, you need a chest voice when you speak or sing, because it's all the, let's close that deal, Kyle. Let's make it happen. Sign on the dotted line. We need chest voice for that. And then we need middle for this magic. It's incredible. It's magical. It's beautiful. It's exciting. That whole middle range is why tenors sound so exciting. Nobody went to see the three baritones in concert. They went to see the three tenors. That's all middle. All those high notes are in middle. And then there's head voice, which is beautiful and sweet and kind and loving. So when I train my speakers and singers how to have chest, middle, and head, not only do they have no pressure and can speak for 24 hours a day, but they have their voice has all of those different sounds and all of those different emotions. And that's why my speakers, that's why Bradley Cooper, that's why all the people that I work with are winning Academy Awards and doing so many different roles. That's why the actors of the world came to me, because they were like, oh my gosh, what if I had all the sounds that I could possibly make and I knew how to play the instrument? I could make any sound and make any emotion and play all the different characters in my life.
And I want to talk about Bradley Cooper and Joaquin Phoenix. I got one more Def Leppard comment. So Phil, when I interviewed him, he talked about Mutt Lange's influence on him and the band. And he's like, Mutt's the one that told me, Phil, learn how to sing. And learn how to write songs. Don't just be a guitar player. He said it'll serve you well. And Phil said today he writes 2-3 hours a day. He is really in a writing mindset. But that brings us to really all of us, you believe, can sing. It doesn't, now we don't have to be a performer, but who doesn't want to be able to sing? You know, I'm not a guy that's going to get up and sing karaoke. I don't have any kind of confidence to do that, but I want to be able to do it. And so it is your belief that all of us can sing, all of us can carry a tune. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I believe that there's no difference between singing and speaking, and that we were all born with the ability to sing. Those of us that make sound. I mean, some people have some problems with their voice that might be physical or some abnormality. But if you can make sound at all, if you can say goo goo gaga, you can learn to sing. That it has nothing to do with what you were born with or what talents you were born with or what talents Mother Nature forgot to give you. That you just need to learn to play the instrument. If your grandmother gives you a Steinway piano on her deathbed and you put it in your living room and you use it as a frame holder, it looks very nice in your living room, but then you never ever made the most of that instrument. You could have gotten a table to put those frames on. So I'm saying that the only difference between the people that can get up at karaoke and sing is because they've learned some techniques to access all the high notes and all the low notes and not have that break in their voice and make vibrato and to sing emotionally. And it's really easy because it comes from a very heartfelt place. And they just didn't meet me. But I've never met anyone in my life that I couldn't teach to be an incredible speaker or an incredible singer. Bradley came to me, we worked 6 months, and he'd never sung before. But he had a good ear. It was a musical ear. When Bradley was little, his parents asked him, he was 8 or 10 years old, his parents, what do you want for your birthday? He said, I want a conductor's baton. Why? Because he was standing on his bed for hours a day, playing records and pretending he was a conductor. he wanted to grow up and be a conductor, which is amazing. The next movie that he has coming out that he is writing and directing and starring in, he plays a conductor. So
Does that mean he was listening to classical music?
Yeah, he was listening to classical music.
Wow, this Philly guy, I would have pictured him more of the Def Leppard type, right?
Well, I'm saying he was standing on his bed listening, pretending to conduct classical music. Isn't that amazing? And for example, when I took the gig to do Walk the Line, Reese had sung a little bit in high school, all head voice. La 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 la. I'm an angel, always an angel. But that wasn't what the part needed. She needed to learn how to sing in chest voice and middle. And Joaquin had never sung Happy Birthday all the way through. So
and then add that they have to have an accent when they sing.
And they have to sound, Joaquin had to sound like Johnny Cash, which is one of the most iconic voices in history. I had less than a month actually to prepare both of them for it. So it just shows that Joaquin started literally, he would say started from zero. And a month later, he was able to sing song after song and sound like his version of Johnny Cash, which was amazing.
It was.
And so it's not about the talent you were born with. It's about how do you learn to play the instrument? What's the fastest way to learn how to play the instrument? So you can go to karaoke, or you can just sing in your car at the top of your lungs, and maybe even put the windows down so that the other people driving next to you could enjoy it because it sounds good. And all I did was teach you how to go from chest, middle to head, which my vocal exercises that I give people that Phil does and that Joe does and that Bradley does and that all of my singers from Maroon 5 to you name it, to Selena Gomez they're doing my vocal exercises.
Wow. And again, I love the names you're talking about. And Jeff Bridges won an Academy Award, I believe.
Yeah, he did. And Reese won an Academy Award too. Both of them for singing roles. They won Best Actress in a Film, Best Actor in a Film, which is the top award you could possibly win. Non-singers in singing roles. That shows how important the voice really is, and that they didn't think of themselves as singers. I mean, Jeff liked to play the guitar when he was younger, but he was never thinking of himself as a singer.
And you take Bradley. Now we're taking an iconic movie that they're going to do a remake. You add Lady Gaga, that he's opposite of. They're doing live performances, in front of, whether it's at a bar or in front of a whole stadium.
Yeah.
And were they performing that live?
Live.
Wow.
He came to me and he said, Gaga said she's not going to pre-record any of the vocals. We're going to do it live when the band plays and the cameras are on. That's going to be the performances. So Roger, I want to do that. She says she's going to do that, and we know she can do it. She's a goddess. And then, but I want to do it. Do you think you could get me to that level where I could just sing it live, not go back to the studio and edit it all and pretend that I did it live, but actually sing it live? And I said, yeah, well, let's do it. Let's do it. Gaga gave me through Bradley, Gaga gave me the greatest and the funniest endorsement that I've ever heard in my life. She heard Bradley before I worked with him.
Okay.
Right? And she was like, this is going to be tough, but I want to do this film. And then she heard him after I worked with him. And she said, you tell Roger that he's not a voice coach. He's an effing magician.
In the fact that it was Bradley's movie, right? So he gets to call the shots. So they did also sing on the Academy Awards. So that's a whole nother level. I mean, you can be a great singer, and that's intimidating, obviously, to sing in front of.
I was there. I was there backstage with him, and we worked on it. He's a professional, and he understands that you have to, if you want to be great at something, then you study from someone who is an expert at it. So after 6 months of working with me for the film, he could have just strolled in to that Academy Awards thing and just sung. But no, he came back. He was in New York, and he came back, and we worked for about 10 days, every single day, on that one song that he was going to sing, shallow. And then after me working for an hour a day, 5 days a week, he went to the studio with Lady Gaga, to the rehearsal studio, and they would sing it and play it with the band for 3 or 4 hours. Why? Because he wanted it to sound great. And that was an amazing, performance. I was literally there and I was like, wow, that sounds fantastic. And people loved it.
So taking that as an example, there was so much emotion, there was so much storytelling. How much of that is part of the process that you coach and teach as well? Because again, there was so much authenticity when they were singing that, and the passion that was coming through, the storytelling that was coming through. Is that part of the process as well?
Yeah, because remember earlier today we talked about I train people to speak or sing from emotion to emotion, because that's the only way you're going to move people emotionally. So that how to create an authentic speaking voice is my job when someone comes to me. That's how we can move people emotionally, control the outcome of the conversations, and control the perception of others. The 3 things I said in the beginning. So it's all about emotion. It's also, you have to think about like this. You're like, Roger, you teach all these famous singers. Yeah. I don't want to be a famous singer. Maybe I could learn how to be a good karaoke singer because Roger said so. I believe you. But and then Roger, you teach all these actors, but these actors have to play all these different roles. And so they need you. But I'm just a CEO of a company, or I'm just running this business, or I'm just a coach or an expert or a doctor or a lawyer. What do I need a voice coach for? And I say, you are, first of all, using your voice and people are perceiving you and you're not in control of it. But more importantly, you need to understand that all of us, we're playing multiple characters in our lives, and they're all authentic. So during the day, I'm a voice coach. That voice coach has a particular volume and is an attitude of omnipotent, omnipresent, all-knowing, all-fixing. I am king of my universe here at my studio. So if when I see someone, I can fix anything. So there's a voice that goes along with that. Then if I take that voice coach voice home with me to my wife, and I walk in, here I am, omnipotent, voice coach. What doth you wish me to solve for you, my lady? And she's like, take the trash out and come back as my husband. Nobody wants to learn anything from you here. So I take the trash out and I come back and then I have a different voice. And that voice has more silence and longer periods at commas so that she can talk. My student, John Gray, used to I said, John, what do women want to hear? And John used to say to me, this is what women want to hear from men. Oh, they don't want you to say anything else. Just listen and let them know you're still alive while you're listening. So, and then if that voice that I use, that I tweak just a little bit, just a little softer, just a longer commas, silence at commas so that she knows she has the floor. And if I use that voice with my kids, then they play naked on the freeway, eating chocolate chip cookies and ice cream all the time. So then there's a voice that we have to learn how to use to our kids, and there's a voice that I use when I can't do it now because I'm quarantined. Everyone's sort of still in their houses, but I play in a basketball league, an adult basketball league. So on Wednesday nights, I go. There's a voice that I use to try to get my opponent to stop guarding me at full court. Like, dude, I'm no threat. I'm no threat to you in the back court in your offensive zone. Could you wait till I get closer to the basket? You're wearing yourself out. You're sweating for no reason. There are voices that we use with our friends or stuff like that. And here's the problem. Most people don't change their voice at all. They're like, this is my voice. I use it for business. It's my voice. I use it for relationships. It's my voice. I use it when I talk to my friends. And then all of a sudden you're wondering why you're less successful in all these other things, but only maybe successful in one thing. Why these amazing business people have horrible relationships, right? These experts, some of the experts that you know of, I mean, they've had 5 marriages and their kids are drug addicts, and yet they're saving the world and telling the world how they should think and act and do, but they don't have successful relationships themselves with their spouses or their kids. So there are things to learn about voice, and and showcasing the different parts of your characters and creating relationships with people that you love and care about and want to do business with that you can only get from voice. The next thing people need to do is for success, is to say, oh my gosh, I never thought about my voice, or that my voice could be the thing that is actually ruining my chances of getting to the next level of success. And I sort of believe Roger, even though he's funny. I believe him because Roger happens to teach all the heads of every industry. I'm the voice coach for the biggest companies in the world, like Zappos and Morgan, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and Kimberly Clark, and all of these giant companies who hire me to help them create a voice so that the public hears their brand message.
And what I love, Roger, is you also have a program, and we're going to get to it for the listener, where it applies to everyone. Everyone that, again, I forget who it was. I want to say it was Mark Victor Hansen on one of my inner circle calls, said the two most powerful things are the spoken word and the written word. And if you can get really good at those two things, you'll be wealthy. I want to share a concept, though. You are part of every PowerPoint I do. You didn't know that, but I always show a picture of me with you at the studio in Hollywood. And by the way, Seth Mosley, 3-time Grammy winner, over 30 #1 songs now as a producer, songwriter, wow. Has a Singers Academy, incredible success. Well, he's part of my inner circle, and I do them in Dallas, Philly, but also LA. And so every time he would come to LA, he would come a day early. And I said, so what's up? And he goes, well, I go see Roger Love. And so I asked him once about it. And I said, I think I could use that. He goes, well, he's not cheap, but he's incredible. So I did some sessions with you both online or through virtual and in person when I was in town. And why I have you in the PowerPoint is to say, I was like at kindergarten for what I needed to have happen, and you're this world-class guy, and it was really powerful what you taught me. But I mean, again, I was at such a low level, but spending time with you at your studio was a transformational experience for me. And I talk about when you can get around people that have done amazing things, there's an energetic exchange that happens, and it expands our thinking. In 1994, I was spending time with Mark and Jack when they were doing Chicken Soup for the Soul. And Mark saying, we're going to sell 100 million books. They went on to sell 600 million.
Wow.
That impacted me. You get around those kind of people. So now I'm going to take it to you and say, here you're talking about spending time with Bradley Cooper and Joe Elliott and John Mayer, who John Mayer's at the very top of my admiration list because he's a phenomenal songwriter, a phenomenal singer, and he does every kind of genre. And oh, did I mention he's a great guitar player, like one of the most outstanding guitar players, and he can do every genre. It's just incredible what he has accomplished, and here you get to spend time with this guy. So, but as you said at the very beginning of the podcast, they make you better, and that's so true, right? So I always encourage people, if you get an opportunity to get around people that have done amazing things, just keep in mind there's a energetic exchange that happens when you get around people that expand who you are.
Yep. You are who you hang around with. And that's every expert that you've ever spoken to believes that. The kid who's in high school that wants to go to an Ivy League, but all their friends only get into junior colleges, he or she is afraid to tell his friends that he got into an Ivy League because he thinks that'll separate them. But the truth is that we have to and my student, Tony Robbins, for 25 years, he says, look, you have to surround yourself with experts, and you have to follow what they've already, the success that they've had. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I've spent 45 years building the wheel of voice. So you just have to learn what I know about it. You don't have to go back and spend 45 years to figure out how to make that wheel. Then there was an amazing article that was in Inc. magazine, and it basically took England and the United States, and it looked at all the top companies. And by top companies, these are companies that had over 1,000 employees. And the study lasted over a number of years, a minimum of 5 years. They found that the cost of poor communication was costing the average big company $62 million a year in lost productivity because the communication level in the company was lacking. $62 million a year. The same companies, when they had, of 1,000 and more, when they had even one leader who was a good communicator, only one, those companies had a 47% higher return on investment after 5 years. And the only difference that they could come to terms with was that there was at least one leader who was a good communicator. You can't run a business. You can't run your own business. You can't run the business of your life. You can't run your own life unless you're a good communicator with the things that you say to yourself and the things that you say to others. And that's a skill set that very few people have. But the top leaders in the world, the most successful people in the world, the happiest people in the world know how to speak to themselves and how to speak to others to achieve the things that they deem as success. Maybe it's feeding the world. You know, you have to know what sounds to make so that people will contribute to that cause.
So Roger, I have other things I would love to explore with you, but I know we're tight on time. So what I want to do now, and if we have time after this, we'll come back to it. But you've made it so easy for people to work with you. I've referred other people to you in the past, but your price tag's really expensive one-on-one. But you've created a group opportunity. And when I saw what you were offering, I was pretty blown away. And so I hope people really want to take advantage of it. But tell us about if people want to engage with you on their voice, and that could be applicable to all kinds of things, presentation, speaking, singing, but just communicating.
Just taking your whatever you want your next level of success to be, to realize that you're going to have to speak your way to that success. And that we're all professional speakers. We're all public speakers. Because if I'm talking to one person, that's my public. If it's the dog or my wife or the chairman of the board, we're all public speakers. I don't even advertise that you could even possibly take one-on-one lessons with me. I weeded that out years ago. And now people do reach out to me, and sometimes I choose them because they're incredible people, but that's not the way you can work with me anymore. I spent so many years doing that. But I literally, through my lifetime, have spent so much time trying to figure out what's the most powerful information that I could give people in the shortest period of time so that they're learning exactly what they need to start speaking better and hearing results that very same day. So I took all the techniques and combined all the secrets that I teach my celebrity clients, and I put them in an HD video format, an online course, so they could access it anywhere they are, anywhere in the world. And it's called my Perfect Voice Complete Collection. And I truly believe that is the absolute best way to get your voice from where it is to where it needs to be, so that you can have so much better communication, better influence, and literally a better life. And it also has the daily warm-ups that I spoke about inside, and that's the same warm-ups. If you saw that I'm Not Your Guru documentary with Tony Robbins, you hear him doing my vocal exercises. If you go backstage, any great speaker or performer, they're doing my vocal warm-up exercises, and you only have to do them for a few minutes, a few times a day, just sort of imitate the sounds that I'm making, and they're so much fun, and they will just totally change the instrument so that you learn how to use it. It'll make your voice bigger and stronger and thicker. And also, the Perfect Voice Collection comes along with other components, like the perfect voice for money in the workplace. So I'm teaching you techniques, but I'm also teaching you the principles that you need to apply. Here's how you should sound when you go in to ask for a raise. Here's how you sound to close the deal. So I've made it so literally affordable that there's no excuse not to get my Perfect Voice Collection. So it even comes with a 30-day guarantee. So if you don't love it, then we'll give you your money back. You only need, like I said, a few minutes a day to totally learn how to do change your voice. So today, as a thank you for me being with you and wanting to connect to your tribe, I'm going to give you a $50 off coupon for my Perfect Voice collection. All you have to do is go to rogerlove.com/Kyle. Catchy title. rogerlove.com or OGRLOVE.com/Kyle. All capitals when it says enter a promo code at checkout, and you'll get $50 off. Now, the program itself is not that much more than $50. So literally, this is the greatest gift I could offer today. Take the program that I know you need to start with, no matter how successful you are, no matter whether you think you have a great voice or whether you think you have a voice that you're just settling with, like most people do. This is my offer today, and this is the gift that I bring. I really think you should do it. At least check it out. You got nothing to lose and better voice to gain. I always say this, and I really mean it. I tell people that a better life is waiting for them right on the tip of their tongue. All they have to do is make the sounds that are supposed to come out, and then they're creating that life.
Love it. And again, we're not talking thousands. We're not even talking hundreds.
Oh my God. No, we're not even talking hundreds.
Yeah, I know. And so it's rogerlove.com/Kyle. And then the promo code is all caps Kyle.
Yep.
With the $50 off, the not so much anyway.
Yeah.
So that's phenomenal. Do you have a couple more minutes for another question?
Sure. I can answer another question.
Okay. So this is the Success Habits of Superachievers podcast.
Yep.
Phil Collins even mentioned that you have some phenomenal success habits. He brought you up a couple of times. So what are some of a couple of things you do on a daily basis that make a difference for you, whether it's meditating, reading, whatever it may be?
Yep. I drink a lot of water because the body needs water to make great sound. And water goes first when you drink it to vital organs like the heart and the brain. And if there's water left after all the vital organs get it, it'll go to the salivary glands, which make phlegm, which is a good word, by the way, the right kind of phlegm that's nice and watery, and that lubricates the vocal cords. So I drink a lot of water. I breathe through my nose. I have this routine. At 4 or 4:30 every single day, I stop working and I go home and I exercise with my wife and family. We exercise hard for about 45 minutes. And then we swim in the pool every single day, even when it's cold. And we swim. And then we get out and we have dinner together, quality, amazing time. And then we go on a 1.5 mile walk. And I do this with my family every single day. Also, I'm a vegan. So I've been a vegan for about 6 years. And I love that. And I feel that's a very healthy way to live. I know Phil's been a vegan before long before people were tired of people saying they were vegans. So Phil's an amazing specimen of a human being and a physical human being. But that chunk of my day from 4:30 to 7, and then we stop and then we fast for 14 hours. So I stop eating at 7, then I don't eat for another 14 or 15 hours the next day. So that process of really being cognizant of family time mixed with being in good physical shape really centers me. People say, do you meditate? I say, every time I do my vocal warm-ups, it's meditation. John Gray used to tell me that John Gray was a celibate monk for 10 years. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, he was a monk. He was the apprentice to the Maharishi something or other for 10 years. And all he did was meditate and travel around the world through meditation in his mind. And he told me that after doing my vocal warm-up exercises, he could do it for about 10, 15 minutes, and he would get to the same place that it would take him 10 hours of meditation. Because the vocal exercises that I do, they're sort of like their breathing exercises and their meditation exercises and their sound exercises. So I actually, every time I sing, every time I do my vocal exercises, it is meditation. It's breathing and it's focus and it's vibrational and it's sound and it's energy. So that's my form of meditation. But my real form of being centered is family time all together, 4:30 to 7 o'clock, and eating healthy and drinking a lot of water.
I love those distinctions you make. And I think of the philosopher Alan Watts would talk about meditations can be anything. It can be working. It can, anytime you're in the flow, the time passes without you even knowing that, that's meditation. And so I suspect you've come up with your own form through your own just seeing what works for you, right? You're not trying to follow any rules per se.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I try to follow the rules of good eating, the things I've learned from the incredible students that I've had including Phil, that have taught me what's good for the body and what's not good for the body. And
related to meditation.
Yes. Oh, yes. And related to meditation, I literally feel like most of my day is spent in a meditative state, because I'm focusing on breathing, I'm focusing on sound, I'm focusing on vibration, and I'm really listening to other people. So experts would say that I probably spend about 6 or 8 hours a day in what is sort of a meditative state. And that's why I'm able to fix voices. That's why I'm able to help change people's lives.
Now, when you're working with these high-end clients, I'm sure sometimes you have to get outside the boundaries of what you prefer, for whether it's working nights or having to get on an airplane or travel. Yep. Is there some of that? Like, you have pretty firm boundaries, but then there's exceptions?
Yes. I mean, look, this whole Corona thing is one of the worst things that, of course, has ever happened to the world and the people who live in the world. But it's been fantastic on levels for those people that have great relationships and really focused on, and it gave me even more of a chance to focus on my business and focus on my family. But I've always been that person that creates boundaries as to, I'm only going to work this much. I'm only going to be this long without my family, because I value family over business. So the truth is that I have Eminem's manager calls me, and you got to get on a plane tonight because he's got a big concert for 40,000 people and he's lost his voice. And I have to get on a plane back before Corona to make all those things happen. But I've created a life that I always put that into perspective and would only say yes to the things that were really incredible opportunities and that did not distract from what my core goals are, and that is to have a wonderful family and to love and support them.
Well, so in closing, I know Les Brown, recently he had him on, and he said, Kyle, I might not go travel till 2027. He's like, this has been so great just to, stop. And then from a business standpoint, Roger, you just had like 1,200 people for a virtual event. So I think you've pivoted in a lot of positive ways. And the people that were really able to pivot, they already had their business in order. They had their life in order. And so they were able to look at this and find some advantages, right? Yeah.
Virtual is not new to me. I've been doing virtual since I started doing voice lessons on the phone because I was teaching people all over the world. And then I moved to Skype, and then I moved to Zoom. So when all of a sudden Zoom became popular, I was doing Zoom for 6 hours a day before Corona. All of my programs are online. I'm not thinking that that there was some giant shift in the way we communicate. I was utilizing all of the powers of the internet and social media and all of those things. So, but it forced me to even think bigger, because we're not going back to what it was. Nobody is. This is the new reality. And we're going to be spending more time virtually moving forward, no matter how many vaccines work. And when Corona is just a distant, horrible memory. So even more important for you to get in touch with the way that you sound, because you're not there. You can't shake people. They can't think, well, you're such a good hugger. I really like you. It's all virtual, and it's all immediately based on the first seconds that somebody hears you and sees you, whether or not they trust you and like you. It comes down even more in this new normal to learn how to communicate in a way that's emotional and connects people. I'm looking at this situation in life as a way to connect the world more. And all of us, we've already united together against something horrible. Well, now let's take that united and let's communicate better. so that we realize that the sameness of ourselves instead of the differences of ourselves. I have a bunch of silly sayings, but one of my sayings is what's my goal in life? I have to make the world a better place. How am I going to do it? One voice at a time. If I can make people sound better, then they can communicate better, then they can get over their differences and realize the similarities, that they all have feelings.
You and Phil have that in common of here's two guys, mega successful, but very busy. And again, you got your family time, you're taking care of everything else, but you're not trying to go down the easy street and retire. You're very much engaged in what you're doing. I know we're up against our time. I always take as much time as I can get. If I get to be with someone iconic like you, I encourage people to go to rogerlove.com/Kyle and also put in the promo code, all caps, Kyle, and you'll see what he's offering. It's incredible. Roger, thank you so much for your time today. It's been amazing catching up.
Look, anytime that I can do a podcast like this, an interview like this with someone that I really care about and someone that I consider a friend, that's an honor to me. And I'm so proud of you for all the work that you do and for the high level of thought and consciousness and for the way that you're a teacher. I'm just a teacher. So we're teachers, you and I. And teachers are platinum as far as I'm concerned. Teachers are golden. So thank you for being such a great teacher. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to the next time that we're together virtually or any other way.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Okay, buddy. We'll see you later.